Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Leslie Harris. I am here today to take you through a quick overview of qualitative methods as it relates to program evaluation. So I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. All right, here we go. So, welcome to the beginning of this semester. We are going to be integrating qualitative methods into all phases of program evaluation, particularly starting with the needs assessment and then moving to our logic models, and then lastly, really bringing forward a proposal for a program evaluation. So, the foundation is really thinking through what are qualitative methods? What's really the difference between qualitative, quantitative methods research? So I just wanted to start off by talking a little bit about the main purpose of research and evaluation. Particularly in the field of social work, we need to make evidence-based decisions about practice and programs. And in order to do that, we need to conduct meaningful research and we need to engage in effectively evaluating our programs. So, the primary purpose of research and evaluation is to really systematically investigate and assess on a particular issue, phenomenon, or program so we can make some decisions. And that could be whether or not our programs are running effectively or not. Are we looking for outcomes and evidence that our clients and project partners and people we're working with in the field are improving based on the interventions that we are working with? We also want to generate knowledge. So we really want to use research to discover new information, understand phenomena, and contribute to existing research. And I would say qualitative methods is fantastic in terms of the field of exploration and discovery and really aims at generating new knowledge. Lastly, evaluation is really based on assessing effectiveness. So, helping people in decision points to determine the effectiveness, efficacy, and the impact of our program. So, we're really looking at outcomes that we have determined while working with in partnership with our project partners. We're looking at understanding interventions. Are our interventions working? Are we helping clients move closer to mutually agreed upon goals? Are policies working? How are these decisions really guiding decision making and in guiding improvements to our organizations? So we want to think about three different types of methodological approaches. First is quantitative, second is qualitative, and the third is mixed methods. I will say that most effective program evaluations are really mixed methods, bringing together qualitative and quantitative. But there's different time points along the trajectory of program evaluation where one method really takes center stage over the others. And you're going to start the semester really focusing on a needs assessment, which is often largely driven by qualitative methods. So it's a great time for us to build our qualitative method skills up at this early stage before engaging in maybe a more mixed methods approach when we get to our program evaluation proposal. So just to know, each method has its own strengths, its own, and is often selected based on research questions. So we don't want to advocate for, quantitative methods is better than qualitative or vice versa. It's really what is best in alignment with your situation or area of inquiry, which guides your research questions and aims, and how can we best address these problems most effectively. So let's get back to quantitative methods. So one of the things that you'll be thinking about in the later stage of the course is choosing a measurement tool. So in order to do that, we want to think about qualitative methods. So qualitative methods are used to collect and analyze numerical or number-based data. The goal is to quantify variables. We look at testing hypotheses and identifying patterns or relationships between variables. So these techniques often involve surveys, structured observations, which lend themselves to statistical analyses. So we're very interested particularly in program implementation and evaluation and intervention development and intervention evaluation is what is our outcome? What are we looking to decrease and what are we looking to increase among our participant population? So quantitative methods helps us do that because it provides a measurable and generalizable results through statistical analyses. Qualitative methods, on the other hand, is really an exploratory approach aimed at understanding a complex phenomena, which is why it's so great at the needs assessment level, because we really need to get out there and interview people before developing programs so that we understand what is the need. What is the need that we're filling through this program or for this evidence-based practice or through this policy change? So we're really interested in behaviors, experiences, perspectives. We want to explore meanings and concepts and cultural significance. So we do this in this class mainly through interview data. But I also just want to alert you to the wide world of qualitative analysis that involves often focus groups, in-depth observations, looking at field notes, ethnographic field notes specifically, content analysis. Often we work with extant documents like websites and narratives and media. So it's a very complex field that looks to integrate multiple sources of data. So our outcomes, rather than numerically generated, are really in-depth insights. So we're looking at deeper understandings. We're looking at really trying to understand culture and context, and we're trying to generate rich data and narratives. So we're really interested in people's stories. So mixed methods, and the reason why it's so effective in terms of program evaluation is that it combines qualitative and quantitative approaches to provide a more comprehensive understanding of a research problem. So the techniques we use are a combination of quantitative, so surveys, measures, and qualitative, such as in-depth interviews, and we bring them together to understand outcome, which is that fuller picture. So we integrate numerical data with contextual data, qualitative insights, stories, so that we can draw some robust conclusions. So for the first part of this semester, but really the emphasis of this course is qualitatively driven evaluation. And that's particularly true for the needs assessment assignment, which will be the focus of this first 6 weeks. So what is qualitative data analysis and what type of data are we going to collect? So it's a methodological process of interpreting and making sense of data collected through qualitative research methods. So we already mentioned interviews, focus notes. We also can use art and extant documents. But what makes this really unique is that we're focused on meaning making. We're also focused on action. So not only what participants that we interview are saying based on their opinions and perspectives, but what did they do in their stories? How did all this meaning making inform them on what to do next and what decisions that they made and what kinds of behaviors did they engage in? And so we're also looking at interaction. So meaning philosophically in qualitative methods is formed with interactions with others, interactions with institutions and organizations. So meaning, action, and interaction is our focus. So we're going to do that through really understanding evaluation, particularly this textbook by Veronica Thomas and Patricia Campbell. And the reason why this textbook is so important is that it's really focused on diversity, improving quality, and promoting usability, which qualitative methods is also really in alignment with. We're also going to use Virginia Brown and Victoria Clark's book, Thematic Analysis. So we're really going to go through the steps of thematic analysis in terms of generating qualitative data, coding, iteration, and then theme development, particularly for our needs assessment assignment. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of thematic analysis so that you really have an overview of the process that we're going to take in this course. So the first step, and we're going to assume that we've collected our data. So we're going to jump ahead a little bit, and then in the subsequent videos, we're going to back up. We're going to start from the beginning in terms of collecting data. So really good interviewing skills and techniques. So first, we're going to familiarize ourselves with data. So we're going to produce transcripts. We're going to read and reread our transcripts. Then we're going to generate codes. Then we're going to generate a code book, and we're going to move from description to more abstract thematic codes. Then across our whole data set, which will really be 3 interviews for this course, we're going to search for themes. We're going to review potential themes. We're going to define and name themes, and then we're going to produce a final report. So really disseminate what are the primary needs of the population of focus that I'm engaging in, or I'm engaging with for my needs assessment, I should say. Okay, so here's a step-by-step guide on how we analyze. Okay, so let's get deeper into that process that we just mentioned a minute ago. Sorry. Okay, so first we're going to transcribe. So we're going to transcribe our interviews, or sometimes these are focus group discussions, into written transcripts. So you can often use software tools. I really like to use rev.com or Otter AI. They both have really affordable services linked to them, or you can contract with a human transcriptionist. Just a reminder that when you do this, all of your data should be identified, meaning that participants should have code names, pseudonyms, so that they are not easily identifiable. Secondly, you're going to familiarize yourself with the data. And this really involves rereading your transcripts over and over again, and really just jotting down and note-taking themes and patterns. So you kind of have your notes and memos about your data analysis. Then you're going to engage in initial, which is often called first cycle coding. So we'll have a video later on that really gets into the brass tacks of what coding is and how we engage in it. But overall, it involves assigning a symbolic marker, also known as a meaning unit, to our data, then clustering and categorizing those initial or first cycle codes into more abstract themes and categories. And the question you can ask yourself along the way is, what is happening here? How do these codes look alike? And how do these codes feel alike to cluster and categorize them? Next, we're going to be developing a coding framework or code book. So a code book is really kind of a code tree, also known as an outline, and it also involves providing definitions for each of our codes. At this level, codes can actually be elevated into themes and categories that emerge from their data. You can use a mind map, code tree, table, to organize these themes and categories. So this is often very creative work at this stage. Then we're going to analyze the data. So once you've developed a code framework or code book, you need to utilize that book to overlay it across your entire data set, which is really 3 interviews for this class. So it involves looking for patterns, trends, relationships between themes and categories. You can use a handful of qualitative data analysis software tools. However, pen and paper and just marking your data, highlighting using Microsoft Word or Excel also works really well, particularly at the early stage of only engaging with 3 interviews. Then we interpret our data. So this involves making sense of our data, really drawing conclusions based on findings. So in the case of needs assessment, what is the primary need that is emerging from all of these interviews? And like what program or intervention or evidence-based practice really lends itself to being able to improve that need that these interviews have really exposed to the surface. You can also visualize your findings. I really like code clouds or word clouds that looks at frequency of words used. I really like concept mapping, so diagramming. And this is really at the stage where we move from what is happening here descriptively to what does it all mean. And that really gets us to the decision-making process of where can we really intervene now that we understand these needs. Lastly, in all cases, there's typically some kind of report or paper. And that's true if you're doing needs assessments with clients. You need to find a way to disseminate your findings. So this involves summarizing key themes and categories. You're often linking these themes and categories with exemplar quotes that illustrate them. You might want to generate a figure, a context-specific framework, or maybe a social process that illuminates and illustrates your study's findings. If you're writing an academic article, this is your results section, but there will be a results section regardless if you're writing, if you're giving a presentation or writing a report, let's say to your client that has contracted you to do a needs assessment. So overall, I just want to emphasize that this is an iterative and emerging process. So even though I've laid out these steps in more of a linear chronological format, it really is not that. It really involves jumping back and forth between the two steps. Often our conclusions bring us back to our initial codes and rereading our transcripts again. But ultimately, we want to analyze interview data or focus group data to draw these meaningful conclusions between findings. I'm also encourage you to read about qualitative rigor. So there is a consolidated criteria for reporting qualitative studies, also known as the COREC checklist, which involves 32 items. And so this is really how we can assess if somebody is doing qualitative work very rigorously. And we won't have time to implement 32 items in the scope of this course, but it's really important for your knowledge to kind of understand how qualitative data collection and analysis is considered to be robust and rigorous. And these guidelines really help us get there and build our knowledge of qualitative rigor. Thematic analysis aligns really well with the goals and process of conducting needs assessment. It provides a robust and flexible framework. It helps us explore and understand participants' needs, and it helps us uncover actionable recommendations from the very words and experiences and stories of our participants in the needs assessment. I'm going to do another video that talks more about the alignment between thematic analysis and needs assessment, but I thought I would conclude with that. Also, I'm going to link in our resources on Blackboard, in addition to the COREC checklist, I've also made a document called Best Practices and Guidelines for thematic analysis using Brown and Clark's approach for you to review. And thank you so much, Dr. Leslie Harris. Here's my contact information, and hopefully this gave you a really nice overview of methods focusing on qualitative methods and thematic analysis. Thank you very much, and we will talk soon. Bye.